Hello, Deepika. Good evening, and welcome to our discussion. Friends, today we are going to discuss about appropriation and misrepresentation of and commodification of Adivasi culture, and we have with us Deepica Elizabeth Lakra, who is a lecturer of English in Laramba College, and she's also an occasional actor in movies and an avid traveler and photo blogger. And she's a person of varied interests. But today we are going to talk about this sort of very old and widespread problem. It's not only relevant to India, but across the world, wherever a process of colonization has happened, and that is a sort of appropriation, commodification, and misrepresentation of indigenous cultures, Adivasi culture. Uh, Sorry. Uh, Deepika, lots of things to discuss, and we have been talking about it in the past as well. Uh, to start with, there was one thing which triggered this whole thing was Gordon Ramsay's red ant chutney.
Yes, red and
Wh-
chutney, and also bizarre food and cuisines. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we have been discussing a lot with regard to food because I'm very much interested in food. As a kid, I have been a very fussy eater, and my mom used to have a very hard time, making a certain kind of a food. But like mother says, or my sisters keep telling me that I have mostly been, when I didn't started having solid food, I was having, milk puddings, that is rabi pudding. So I have grown up knowing the taste of indigenous food and accepting them, liking the taste of it. So I have not usually had anything offensive while having this, because when it comes to food, like the whole understanding or the idea about food is it should be clean, or most of the time, like it's always presented, if I'm talking about Indian foods. So Indian food is mostly, what we see in most of the food channels, and also most of our food bloggers on, they have food blogs in platforms. Uh, they have mostly covered North Indian food or mainstream food. Tribal food has rarely been given that platform, or rarely been explored, because the whole idea that tribal food is uh, bizarre. Tribals eat something that could not be consumed by everyone. Maybe insects, certain animals, creepy crawly creatures, like creatures that's how usually it is described. This very idea about Adivasis or Indian, indigenous people, not just in India, in like across the globe, have this is the kind of assumption that tribals consume the bizarre food, or they are creepy crawly creatures, usually something you cannot develop a taste for. Gradually, like certain food shows which have opened up, without having that kind of a bias, they have understood the value of native food, like indigenous food. A lot of weeds that's consumed by many Adivasi people. They grow widely in forest land where they reside, and these you know uh, these food are nutritious. It's not just Adivasis are eating snakes or rats or ants. Those are not the daily supplement. They are based, they eat a lot of greens, not just animal. So Adivasi food, like I was going through one of an article when where one of an Indian food blogger. She's basically from Northeast. She writes that she had a hard time to find any proper web page or any YouTube video which was concentrating on Northeastern food or Eastern food basically, because she was not able to get those authentic recipes that were taught or they are consumed there. And the general assumption was like Northeasterns eat a lot of meat, or they are they eat ashes of bamboos or bananas, so they don't understand the use of it. They simply, the general public has the assumption that you know uh, the indigenous people, the Adivasi people eat this, and that is how we are stereotyped. And it's not just based on food; it's also in the sense of appearance. Now, because like we have started with food practices, red ant chutney, okay, red ant chutney from Bastar, Chhattisgarh has become very popular. So even Gordon Ramsay, one of our Michelin chefs, have flown down to India and traveled deep into the forests of Chhattisgarh to explore what is this, very much talked about red chutney. So, and his way of, maintaining that whole social engagement was like, he definitely has a total outsider view, and his reaction, was, I think, yeah, it's the general reaction that everyone would have when you're served with a red and chutney. So red and chutney, most of people have just started to know that the eggs of red and chutney are filled with folic acids and iron. So they are very good in terms of nutrition for pregnant women, for growing up children, and also, since these ants grow up, they build their nest in tall trees. Uh, they and found during the summers, like hot weather. So consuming this chutney along with the red chutney of red ant and its egg is also, it does also help to wave out the heat, to survive, to fight that heat. So there are a lot of nutritive values with all this, and it's not bizarre. That's what I always want to tell it to people, that eating these are not bizarre, and gradually people have started to explore it, just explore it, and not accept it. So it's always an exotic. Now, what I see in the market space, like when I go to market, there used to be a time when people coming from villages, from rural places, coming to township or cities, selling. Especially I live in this place, and in Orissa, where from the surrounding neighboring villages close to the forest, all the villages come with the forest products. So we have a lot of those puff mushrooms in this monsoon period, and different varieties of mushroom, wild mushrooms, consumable, not poisonous at all. And during summers, they get a lot of red ants to be sold in the market. The problem here, what I see, is this thing for the commercial use is being sold. You know, the tribals have gradually, started giving away their food practices because of this kind of acceptance into the mainstream. You have to be accepted. There is always this problem, and which I have also faced many times, that being accepted among this big crowd of people and being called Adivasi, and then you eat this kind of food. And this is an everyday, everyday encounter for many of us, like me and many other Adivasis also, that tribals are like this. Tribals live in the jungles. Live in mud houses. Tribals or Adivasis, they do not understand modernity. They are do not understand you know the standard of living of a urban space. Well, that has to be changed now. So this misrepresentation, this kind of appropriation, and which constantly, is being put on Adivasis, is really painful for many. And this representation has been, there in cinema a lot for years together, that there have been this kind of representation, that Adivasis are victims, Adivasis are poor, Adivasis are savage, and it's always the white man's burden to educate them, to teach them, to make them about how to live a modern life, how to live a civilized life. Okay, so this kind of an appropriation has needs to be changed now. It's not always right to be considered exotic, because then exotic also has you know kind of exploitation at many levels. We see tourism, to all these beautiful islands, and beautiful sea beaches especially, or islands in Caribbean isles, or and the tribals there are being exploited for their place. This kind of colonization has been there, and it has it continues to be there. It continues to be in our modern practices also. And but sometimes we don't understand what's happening, or we just ignore because we are just used to it. So it's time that we should, from our level, start to fight for it, or start to break those stereotypes, and come out of that appropriated framework. So in cinema, especially when Adivasis are being shown as victims, it's not always that. Given the story could have that a tribal person or an Adivasi person is being victimized, but you know the stories need to change now, because not all Adivasis are victims now. Adivasis have been educated. Adivasis have fought for freedom. Um, Adivasis are, they have studied in Oxford, and they are out there studying in foreign universities. They are established officers in many government posts, and many such. I will not name everyone. They are like filmmakers, they are activists, they are writers. So we have a lot of Adivasis there. And to stand for Adivasi culture, we have to appropriate it in an actor or a tapestry, so that it's soothing, acceptable to the eyes of the common public. So these kind of appropriation has been constantly there, and we always keep talking about this kind of appropriation. It's always there in the discussion when we usually talk. So there are more things to it, in books also, like when we talk about marginalized people always being victims, but there is no story as to Adivasi being the savior. There's no savior story. There's always a victim story, or Adivasi being a leader. Now we need a lot of change in this thing. So yes. I'm not audible, Surya. Your mic is off.
Sorry. Yeah. So a few things, I would like to, talk about from what you said. Before that, there is a question from Bipul, um,
Yes.
which is about Isaac Munda's eating channel.
Oh, I just love the way how humbly he eats his food. Like he takes a morsel of, pokhal bhat, okay, the fermented rice. He takes a mouthful, morsel of it, and feeds on it, and it's just so soothing to see that. That's how we eat. And the other thing is, he has been able to show all these wild vegetables, the rustic lifestyle, and not hurting the environment specifically. Okay, not hurting the environment, not going and uprooting everything and taking away everything. They take just a part of it, and let it, again grow more. So, about Isaac Mundia, I really like is that it's really raw. It's really raw. It's uncurated, um, and one could see that this kind of lifestyle people are. I so I would say that he's really doing a good job. He's really doing a good job, and the lot of vegetables like we living in the cities have completely forgotten these wild growing vegetables that my grandparents used to eat. And by the time my mother and father started studying in different schools and coming to city for work, even they have forgotten these kind of foods. So it's good that we are reintroduced, and also that this man is also spreading this knowledge. So all of us who are watching this will now recognize everything, these greens that he is using for his everyday consumption, the vegetables, the way of life, basically the way of life, by not you know damaging the environment, not damaging the forest place, and coexisting with it. So yes, I like his YouTube videos. It's nice.
Um, there was one thing that you said about, on the chutney, the red and chutney being brought to the market alongside with the mushrooms. So, don't you
Yes, puff
think that?
mushrooms and wild mushrooms.
But do you think that the reason the chutney kind of it's again that because as you were saying that stereotype of people eating indigenous people eating insects and things like that, so that's why people want to they just keep talking about this red and chutney and not about this. I mean, most of the food that people eat is derived from indigenous food, culture, because that is the mother culture of any
Hmm.
land. And
Yes.
this whole focus on just these things, uh,
Well,
what do you
so far what I have been able to explore, I grew up in a city space, and there were like rare visits to my maternal house, native, or my to my paternal side. But the most of the times when I have gone, I have enjoyed, first of all, I have always enjoyed this part, which is storytelling from my grandparents, my grandmother basically. So, and her coming, so that's one part of memory, and how I have build up this liking for indigenous food that my grandmother used to bring during the summer vacation. When she used to visit us, she used to bring them in this uh, kapde ka or cloth potlis. She will tie them neatly and bring them. So some of them were dried, some of them were fresh. So she would bring a variety of wild berries, leafy vegetables, dried and pickled, and fresh water fish. Lot of things. I cannot just name them. There are a lot. So along with that, she always used to have this riddles and stories when she used to. So it was not just about bundle of food, but it was all this bundle, everything bundled into one that she used to bring. So that's how I started to enjoy and know more. And not just my grandmother, I would say my father, father used to tell a lot of stories, starting from the days he started his school, about his father, about his village, and also my sisters who have had a lot of exposure to village life. Uh, so the practices, when it comes to food practices, so far what I have been able to explore from my own tribe, I belong to Oraon tribe, and so far what I have explored from my native place, from my maternal or paternal native place, the way of preparing food. So first of all, oil. So when there used to be a celebration at home, so we used to have something fried, fried rice cake, or fried some rice, rice powder, being made into a laddu and then fried into some goodies. So the oil that was used. So the oil that was used was from alsi, or what you call it. I'm just forgetting the name. Alsi, and then from mahua seed. Okay, so these were the oils that were used. Now it's rare to find these oils in the villages. I hardly get to see anyone making oils out of this mahua seeds or alsi. Now now, these were oils commonly used, and apart from these oils, most of the food preparations that we had were basically, boiled or made into a stew or gruel, and they were usually, a lot of vegetables if they are available based on season, and millet, the use of millet, boiled, steamed, smoked. So there is a way of smoking, this meat or any leafy vegetables or pickling, to pickle something. We used to have a wooden stove, earthen stove, and just above that used to be a bamboo plank, woven into a platform, like a sheet, big sheet, and it was hung from the roof. And the smoke that used to come out while cooking or from the woods used to actually dry these vegetables, the seasonal vegetables or fish or meat, because meat, when being used, they were in lot of quantity, so some of it was smoked and kept it for later use. So these indigenous practices, smoking the food, even I have seen my grandmother like smoking, the millet pudding, or dal. How she used to smoke it. She would take a charcoal from this charcoal and just drop it in gruel and in the millet pudding. So that is how she used to smoke the food. So now this kind of smoking food, we can see this, in a lot of our cooking shows, or most of them being streamed on YouTube or YouTube, and many of those, like smoking. And when it comes to smoking meat or smoking any food item, it's always, well, the first thing that comes to our head is biryani, or smoking the kebab, minced meat of the kebab. So taking a charcoal, dropping it into a ghee, and then adding some clove into it, and then putting it into a dum and smoking it, giving that smokiness to the meat. So this practice was already there among the indigenous people, among the Adivasi people, and the smoke drying, it's done by almost all the Adivasis that I have so far, been leading and looking into by the Northeastern. When I had my visit 2 years back in Northeast, most of these local food outlets, or houses, they had this bamboo smoking platforms, and they used to smoke a lot of meat there. They used to preserve it for for later days when they are not available, even the vegetables. So this smoking process, yes, it's native to all the it's indigenous people. And yeah, these are practices that I see in very lavish looking expensive restaurants, practicing it, and home cooks, home chefs doing it for biryani or kebabs or different food products, different food items that they can smoke with this charcoal, and use of clove and ghee. So use of dum with this charcoal is, yes, has been practiced long time back by my grandparents, and maybe before that, which I don't know.
Right. So that's very interesting what you say, that a lot of the food practices that is being kind of glorified on television and magazines is actually drawn from indigenous practices, and while the indigenous people are sort of portrayed as in a strange manner,
Not knowing
their
is
practice.
strange, not knowing anything. Yes.
Yeah, but their practices, so their culture, their food is being stolen and appropriated. So here there is a question by our friend Hemanta Dalpati, who is a teacher as well as a poet, and he wants to know if you think there is a relationship between appropriation and Brahminism.
I think Surya, you would be the right person to tell it.
Well, certainly, yes. I mean, Brahminism is another word for appropriation of resources, of culture, of language, of religion, of everything. So, but what is your take on it?
um I have always, like, felt this, that to be accepted you have to be appropriated, and sometimes it comes from self. We sometimes consciously, unconsciously try to appropriate ourselves to be accepted. And like a friend asked this question, this relationship between appropriation and Brahminism, and Surya also stated it that yes, it's there, it's always there. So I wouldn't, discuss much on this, because I'm, mostly talking about not so serious things, but yeah, something lightheaded about food, or, different lifestyle practices that we have been appropriated into.
Right. There's another question also which Sujata is asking, which I think is very important, and this is something that we come across all the time. She is asking that many of our progressive people say that the mainstream education is ruining indigenous culture. How far do you agree with this?
Well, mainstream, many of our progressive people say that mainstream education is ruined. Well, won't say ruin, but the thing is that we have not been able to preserve a lot of our practices, lot of our, ideologies, lot of the philosophies. It's not, it's not lost. It's not lost. Education has not, ruined anything. It's the problem is, what I feel now is lack of archiving these things. Indigenous folklores, how many folklores like that you have heard is being, archived by our very own people. The archived material that we find, the books that records this folklores, or this, religious practices, are done by whom? Okay, people who are considered as learned, right? Now, how many people would accept a book coming from their own people? Because when it comes from, you know a native person, the knowledge is being questioned. Our general knowledge is, just a general knowledge. That is what I have felt, and many a time that I have come across, that the way you're thinking and addressing to this question of, like, I'm talking this in general. You have addressed this particular thing which does not have a, you know mm, any other substantial thought to it. So you cannot substantiate your idea with any marked or standardized knowledge. So if we are not, our knowledge is not being accepted in that academic field, definitely we have to take, other standard, a scale that will evaluate that yes, our point, our archiving or our knowledge is valid. So this tribal knowledge, first of all, it's being marginalized because the years and years of, this uh, sidelining, marginalizing indigenous people and constantly feeding the head that your knowledge is not acceptable, it does not have any valid proof, uh, has been filled into our brains. We are being taught that we are our knowledge, our indigenous knowledges, our indigenous practices are not valid. They do not have any proof, or there is no fact to validate it. So validation, who is going to do that validation now? So one has to accept the knowledge that's coming from this native people, the indigenous people. It needs to be accepted. Constantly asking for validation, is the work of the academic, a lot of academic, strict academic framework. So what I understand is a lot of archiving has not been done. Archiving, or they are just missing. You know, the all these knowledges, all these practices, that's that was being taught, handed over orally, uh, has been given away because we have to be, accepted when it comes to this city space. So we are forgetting it, we are leaving behind. It's not education, it's not what my degree has made me forget, or to give away what I have learned, uh, from, or what I have gained this knowledge from my ancestors or from my, elders. but because, the fear that I would not be accepted in that space has made us to, draw that line somewhere, to, not step out of it, that, claiming that, this is my knowledge, and, constantly keeping that in the forefront and saying and fighting for, for our, uh, our individuality. So I think that's the problem, because we feel that we need to be accepted by everyone. And it's not that education, I would not say any person's degree or any person's education has, made them give away their, knowledge, their ancestral knowledge, or the ones that have been handed by their parents. But the stereotype keeps on, being put down on Adivasi people because of that, fear of always being left out, always being, dragged into this filthy remarks, makes us to just put it back, not show it in front, but somewhere deep down, everyone within their house, within their periphery, they practice it. Uh, and yes, it's not gone. We need to archive it. That's what needs to be done now.
Right. I think that's very important what you said, that it's not education per se that which has, like eroded away indigenous people's culture. Rather, in fact, I would say, like as you just said, it's rather the, this keeping education away from the people and taking away the means to archive, to, to articulate, and to I think we have had this story in the Brahmin myths for a very long time, which is the story of Eklavya. And so
Hmm.
this whole thing of, denying education, and that's seen as an injustice for centuries now. So much so that it has also made into its way into myths which are essentially Brahminical, but even then there also there is some sort of acknowledgement that this is a historical injustice. And one can see that in parts of the world where there has been more access to education, it has actually helped people. Like, the other day we had our friend Heriberto, and uh, he uses his filmmaking to protect his community and the community's knowledge and culture, which would have been very difficult without having this sort of mainstream education. That's true. I hope that answers, Sujata.
Because
Okay,
mainstream,
now,
yes,
yeah.
mainstream education is actually necessary because like look at the activists that are coming from this rural spaces, who are not who don't do not know this language of the most of the Indian crowds, Hindi or English. They are unable to articulate in that. And also, if you look into this articulation, they are able to articulate their problems when it comes to fighting for their own rights. But the thing is, to understand them, you have to understand their language. It's not, and that's where the problem arises, that most of the voices remain unheard because you're not able to understand what they're speaking. You need a standard language. You need English, or you need a Hindi to be spoken, or Oriya to be spoken in. And most of the or any other, like also for other other states, you need the state language. But what about this indigenous languages? They are not gibberish. Okay, what usually is shown in most of the visual media, that when a tribal is being shown and they are speaking something, it sounds something gibberish, and they think that gibberish, all this gibberishness is tribal language. No, they are language, and they are articulating it. They are articulating the problem. And to be heard, again, one needs to learn. One needs to learn all the standard languages, Oriya, or English, because English is widely spoken, even like I'm speaking. And all of us, every one of us is speaking English language or Hindi, but our own languages, we have forgotten. We have even when someone would come and speak to me in in a tribal language, which I might not know, which I might not understand, I would definitely need an interpreter, someone who would interpret it for me. But then, will that be authentic? I don't know. It might be interpreted into something else. And that whole communication would go wrong. That whole, that voice, what this person is trying to say, would completely go wrong. So yes, education is necessary. It's not giving away the knowledge, but sometimes we have to unlearn what we have learned, and that I think is necessary for every one of us.
Right. In fact, yesterday, in the discussion we had Kalfin Vizan, who's from Sulawesi and from the Minahasa community. So he said this yesterday in the discussion, that he cannot rely on a translator because what if his message does not go the way he intends to? So that is why it is important for him to communicate in English, although it is the colonizer's language, or whatever one might call it. But he needs it so that he can talk to me, and that does not mean that he forgets his own language. And if he is forgetting his own language, that's because of some other historical problem, not because he got educated. So
True.
yeah. So okay, now the other thing that has been bothering us is we had this situation in Niyamgiri where the Dongria Kon community's sacred art has been stolen and being used by textile designers across the country. somebody's putting the secret art on the shoes, somebody's putting it on a bag, somebody's putting it on a sari, and then one sees that the same thing is happening with worldly art. The same thing is happening in the Northeast. Like there was this case against
The very
Ritu Devi
recent one,
also.
just yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So is that like one might argue that okay, art is universal and we all learn from each other. The way an artist in India kind of copies Van Gogh's style or something, that is allowed in art. But is this a sort of is it really an artistic influence, or is it like a blatant plagiarism and for commercial gain?
Yes, it's for commercial gain, which I would, I would agree that it's for commercial gain. And the last time, the whole Nagaland fashion show that was taken up by this designer, renowned designer, and she was asked to, uh, bring into light, why was the GI tagged designs of this Nagaland people have been misrepresented. So these are the specific shawls for different uh, people of a different age, especially the adults, being worn different designs being worn by both the genders. So this was just for the sake of design and bringing it in as in the ramps or bringing it for a show. They are being misrepresented, as I'd say, they are being wrongly told. So every indigenous design, or this designs, the motifs that's present in all this tribal be it textile or these art from, they're stories, telling stories about different things. They have derived these designs from different patterns in the uh, and different different patterns they see around them from the nature. They could be fish, they could be snakes, they could be different patterns that they see in their everyday in the nature as well as in space. And also this worldly art or shora art now, and the art that's from Jharkhand. These have all the art have a story to tell, and these stories are from the kind of lifestyles they are leading. That there are different stories that it's telling. So for the sake of art, or for the sake of this commercial gain, I think one should not see again. There is this problem that once this is getting popular among the large masses, the demand for those products will be more. So the indigenous people, Adivasi people, will now have to, make, build, create these designs which caters to the taste of most of the people, because then uh, it's bringing them some monetary support. Now it's very important for everyone to survive. They need to live, and but in order to survive, one should not destroy the story behind it, the practice, the kind, what it's trying to represent about that particular type. So mixing up, jumbling up different designs, and over a period of time when this starts happening, and it's taken up the mainstream, uh, the original designs will be lost, and many of these indigenous designs from Native Americans have been lost. Now, one would not be able to, not just Native Americans, but also many of these designs that indigenous people from have been using in the textiles are not being done. Not just textile; it's also this form of other, maybe pottery, maybe different handicrafts that they are making, for a large mass who would uh, accept that in their spaces, who would be able to flaunt that design, uh, will need them to be created, and they will be lost. And it's already losing in this uh, in this whole time. It's been like gone somewhere. Most of these are gone, the stories are gone, uh, the essence of it is gone. So yes, consumerism, like the whole commercial gain, is also affecting uh, tribal art, the original art that's there. So I don't think so just for the sake of art, like that art is to express. But if it is expressing, it should not turn a story in a different way. It should not give a different version of the story. It should give the same story, but not jumbled up, not being wrong. Because things that's being practiced by different communities, it's very important to them. you know so they shouldn't be harmed in the process of this consumerism. They shouldn't be harmed, is what I think. So one needs to keep them in their pure form.
Right. So that's. I mean, it was very strange that, in fact, the people of Niyamgiri even filed a case with the police, and that this has happened, and it's an atrocity act. Under the Atrocity Act, they filed a
Hmm.
case because
Hmm.
it was the sacred
Hmm.
art that was being, um, like, people were, the designers were being disrespectful towards them, and also using the tribe's name as a,
Hmm.
Dongriya sari, Dongriya this, Dongriya that, and uh,
Yes, rather than saying that it's an representation, or it's being inspired from this dongri art. So like what I have seen, dongriya saris or dongriya dupattas that's being sold in the market. So even I have come across in many of the shops, specifically like dongriya shawls, dongriya dupattas or saris. But dongriya cons do not wear those saris or dupattas. They have these shawls, small shawls, to wrap around. Okay, and the I think at least the designers who are taking up should at least state, it's being inspired, rather than picking it up and popularizing it in the form of sari or a dupatta, or as a put up as a wall hanging, something to showcase. Uh, some there should be some authenticity of work, and has people have to learn to accept it that way. We have to preserve it. Otherwise, if we start making everything in a standard form, the whole originality will be gone. And yes, it's again appropriation, because I don't think so the general crowd, the mainland people, what we call the urban people, would not be able to wear that shawl in a way the Dongria Con people wear it. They will not be. Definitely, there are ways to wrap it. There are a lot of stylists who have created this way of draping in too many forms. Draping styles, but the way the Dongyas have used it will not be the same. When it comes in the form of sari, or when it comes in the form of shawl or a dupatta, it will not be the same. It will just change and gradually we'll also start seeing these tribal people wearing them as shawls and dupattas, because now that will have become, this is what dongriya handwork is. It's in the form of shawls and dupattas. So we need to accept, that yes, we are taking an inspiration, and we are not just picking up and standardizing it in a different way, different form. Yes.
Right. In fact, what Rolf, it strikes me when we talk about ritual art, let's say of the Dongriakon people or the Sora people or the Worli people. A lot of it is ritual art, sacred art, and an om or a swastika when it is hung on a wall, it still remains sacred.
Problematic. Yes.
It still remains. People still consider it as it a sacred art. Like it's
Hmm.
something that sacredness is
Symbol.
maintained.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
That sacredness is
when it is Adivasi art, it is just seen as some,
something to
uh,
be consumed,
yeah, like
taken away.
like a collector's item or something.
Yes.
In fact, we hear a lot of like music that is very much also music and dance, particularly like
Hmm.
by the film industry and otherwise also, which is clearly lifted from indigenous communities. A lot, I mean, a lot of Bombay's early day cinema was just completely lifting the music and the dance of the Koli community, and also of the other communities, maybe in Himachal and Kashmir, and
Yes.
also Central India, Southern India. There is one of my favorite songs is Khoya Khoya Chand, but I one day I saw the video of it, and it starts off actually with the Toda people dancing, and so very rarely one sees like the art form of indigenous communities being performed by them instead of either one sees this kind of a situation where a hero has suddenly landed up in some place, and you know like some urban guy, and we see this a lot in Odia movies also,
Hmm.
up in some place
Yes,
and
yes. Goppa Hele Bisata. One story while I was doing my research work. Yes, I came across this, and I was just okay. There's this, sexualization of tribal women and songs going behind, and even in Jajabara, there was this song, and in the background there's this romance, and in the background there's an Odia song that's talking about migration. So yes, there is a lot of music. There is a lot of this songs taken from tribal people and being used in mainstream films. And Surya, I've been telling that you saw the first scene that came in that song was Toda people dancing. Um, I remember, listening to this song while I was growing up. I was young, yes. So this song, if I'm not wrong, this one by Hum Bewafa Hargiz Na The, Par Hum Wafa Kar Na
yeah.
Sake. So yes,
Yeah,
just when this beautiful song is on, in between there has to be this whole tribal some
so-called
jingle
tribal.
that they have to, yes, so-called tribal jingle that
Yeah.
they had to put is like jingalala who, like what, like why would you want to put that, like I couldn't understand, never understood it. uh, and I really didn't want to see actually the video of that song also, because it was really offensive, because when have an experience during my school days when I was told that when I told that yes, I'm a tribal. Most of my friends would make that some kind of a weird dance movement like this, and they will do jingalalahu jingalalahu. So no, we don't do jingalalahu. Adivasis don't do jingalalahu. There's no such word or no such phrase as jingalalahu. So please undo that from your whole vocabulary. Adivasis don't do Chingalalahu. So where, like, how did this come from? And even most of lately this Jhingalala who has taken different forms. So Jhingalala has become live. There's this Tata Sky ad which says "Isko laga dala to live Jhingalala." So there's this jingle. I don't understand like what does Jhingalala like. It has the meaning has continued to change, and it's very interesting the way it's being used in songs, and the way this dance movement being depicted in Hindi cinema, and the way they have these colored faces, mostly some white or wheatish colored people painted black, and then some white stripes would be there on their cheeks, and then for foreheads wearing some leaves. Well, leaf will not be able to cover a lot of stuff, so please don't assume that tribals wear leaf, and they always wear some kind of animal skin, animal hide as loins, or women draping themselves with some tree barks and all that. No, that's not exactly how it is. When we're talking about this song and use of music, when I was looking into where this Jingalala has come from, and I went back to this, you know, I'm just forgetting the whole thing because too many things are there and too many, uh, you know, images are flashing right away. So I'm forgetting it completely. It comes from one of a Nigerian singer. He has this drum rolls, and he uses it chinga la bo, and I guess it comes from. He has this whole collection from Kingdom of. I'm forgetting if Surya, can you help me with that?
I think
Uh,
Nigeria it was.
yes, it's from Nigeria, and it was from Kingdom of. I'm forgetting that particular name of that album. So this song is has beautiful drums that's being played, and chinga la abo, and it has a meaning. It has a meaning. It doesn't just and time after time this chinga la abo. This song has been used in many music videos. This has also been used um, in one of our Indian TV show, which is uh, some Chandrakanta. Yes, Chandrakanta, and this has gradually turned into Jingalala, which I think is Jingalala now. Jingala Abo has become Jingalala now. So yes, you know
Right.
the course has been changing gradually, and use of different tribal music, and used in mainstream cinemas, in even in TV serials, and then being appropriated with some certain visual images. Uh, that has always been there. Like the one I just told you, like the Jingalala, how it has come, to us. How years after years it has come like this. From Jingala Abo, it has become Jingalala to us, and there's no meaning to Jingalala, I think, but we have gradually started finding meanings in it. The commercials and different shows which use them as trailers have brought different meanings to this world, which never existed.
Right. It was quite a famous song actually back in the day. I mean, a lot of people have copied it, and I remember when I was in 10th grade, there was a remix of that song, and
Hmm.
it used to play in all the parties. Everybody used to play it, and remix of Santana song. So just look at the journey of the song. That it starts from this drummer
Hmm.
in Nigeria. Then it is copied by a very famous guitarist in Mexico.
Mexico.
Then it is copied from there by R.D. Burman in India, and who puts it into Shalimar film, and we see. So by that, and I think it meant something like "do not worry" or something like that. It had a meaning like Jingolova, Jingo.
Ha,
It was
Jingola
Jing,
Oba, yeah.
yeah. It has a meaning in their language, in the Nigerian language, but we have turned it into Jingalala, whatever, like
Yes.
I see it even on Facebook, sometimes media people, when they, like the word mumbo jumbo,
Hmm.
or somebody says unga bunga or something like that. This is all kind of sort of a mockery of, you know, yeah. Uh, so if any of the viewers have questions, please put it through. We have been talking for an hour, and
Yes.
we are going to wrap up soon. Uh,
Too many things and too many things and you know get miss out incomplete sentences. Too many images coming in the head. So
no, that is fine. Actually, it's a very vast, because it's been so many. I mean, just I remember any day of watching Chitrahar, half of it would be this.
hmm.
Any movie you see, I mean, it was quite. I mean, even as a child, one would notice that there
There
was
was
something
also this
strange.
very
Yeah.
recent. It's very strange, very strange. And this film where Akshay and Salman Khan trying to chase Priyanka Chopra somewhere in the near a sea beach, and they're wearing some coconut leaf being strung together, uh, and they're doing the similar kind of these dances behind with that music. Mujhse shadi, yeah, Mujhse shadi karoge or something. This song, and they are doing the same kind of tribal movements, which they assume is a tribal dance. And yes, it is a kind of a mockery. It's being one needs to know, explore, learn what what Adivasi people do, what Adivasi people, what are their practices, what are their dance forms. They are different. There are a lot, different songs for different occasions, for different seasons, for different events. There's so too many, which has not been archived, and yes, with time they're being forgotten. And when like when you're talking about songs and music, very recently when I was we had a family big family gathering of all from all our families from my mother's side, brothers, cousins, sisters present. We all came together. So my younger cousins, they wanted to have this big deck with Nagpuri songs to be played, and they wanted to dance to that songs. And recently in our side, our place, there is restriction to that. If these modern songs and decks are used during this kind of get-togethers or marriage ceremonies, for marriage feasts and all that, they would be fined. I think in a way it's good, because preservation of this old style of dance form, remembering those old songs, remembering how to play those learning again. We are forgetting with a lot of this Nagpuri songs, and a lot of our indigenous Adivasi songs being available in a very peppy version, with modern instruments, guitar, and this octopad and drum sets being playing, and then they have this whole mixing thing going on. It's really interesting, and with high beats, high energy music. And definitely all younger generation, me, cousins of my same age group, my younger cousin, everyone wants to dance in that songs, and those songs. And gradually we have forgotten all these old songs that we used to dance I was very young. So have, I have actually forgotten. I'll say that I have forgotten of some of those songs, and when I remember them, I can just remember a line or two from it. So doing this in what in my my villages and my neighboring villages, they have made this fine being done so that this form of this song, this folk songs are not lost. My generation, the generation after me, remembers them. They remembers this, how to beat those drums, the tal, the tap of those drums, uh, how they have to be done. And these dance steps, the dance steps have also been modernized now. And these dance steps are also, with time we have, my generation has started adding a lot of different way of moving the feet at different counts. So yes, these kind of these practices have strict, have these particular rules set up, you know a way to preserve it. So I find these small efforts from our side, from our our parents, from our people from our community, to help my generation, the coming generation, and the ones after that, to remember them and not to forget. I think this way, we'll be able to not forget it completely. We'll know them. Yeah, so I think and most many of the other Adivasi people would be having a similar kind of regulations or practices to maintain those maintain those dance practices, or maintain those dance steps, or those songs, or the drum beats and everything. So I guess that many others would be doing the same. Your microphone.
Yeah. Yeah. So great. There's a question from people who wants to know. Do tell us about your experience as a teacher in Orissa and how responsive the students are to you, to your ideas about food, cinema, indigenous culture.
Well, as a teacher in Orissa, uh, being a teacher, yes, every day every day I have a new experience. Every day I'm encountering uh, different ideas about me, different ideas, or like every day is a different experience, and too many challenges also. Uh, Thankfully, like, my students have been, they have been very open. There are a lot of students that have passed out, and I have taught them. Well, I don't teach about food. Well, and there have been not too many courses, or too many books, or many lectures that I teach that comes across talking about food. But yes, I do teach them, uh, colonialism, post-colonialism, and stories coming from different, colonial countries, colonized writers. Now, I do talk about them, and their response, it's eye-opening from them. Sometimes they are surprised that they have not been able to understand the same kind of the way there are stereotypes, the way there is oppression, discrimination, gender discrimination. So a lot of this thing has been normalized. They have not, they think it's a way of life. This is how they are living their life. It's just normal for them. But when they read these literatures, when I teach them, when I try and give them some contemporary examples, they are definitely, awestruck, like, oh, we are living this life, and we are, we were not conscious about it. We were not conscious about the kind of gender discrimination that happens in our society, or the kind of discrimination that we continue to do amongst ourselves, within our own friend circle or within my own batchmates. So it's eye opening from them. And as a teacher, I think rather than just teaching them as these are the things that's happening, but also trying to evolve their thoughts, give them a wider platform to accept. The first thing is that they learn to accept everyone. They learn to accept all cultures. They learn to accept everyone as their equal. uh, so this is my whole intention. Like most of the time when I teach this literature, I teach them in that way, that everyone is accepted, everyone is as you are. So we have to understand that we should not be discriminating. We should not be looking down upon so people coming from different groups, different classes, economic, or from different races, from different religion. So yes, my students' response, I haven't ever felt very harsh in their body language or in their behavior, or when they're answering or when they're interacting with me. Rather, have been lucky, definitely, that I have have very uh, you know very good students, very engaging and interested to know more. So sometimes when I'm teaching them, sometimes there are questions which are outside the story. They're trying to relate it, whether it's relevant, whether this example or whether a particular thing that's happening is also same, like maybe the spaces, different spaces being allowed to different genders inside the house, or different work being as a given to different genders. So certain things that gradually they have started to understand is I appreciate them, because when I had been a student myself, I myself had been learning them with experience. Someone did not, tell me or show me these things, that this is happening. These are the way persons are. People are having discrimination. These are the phrases people are using to abuse, or discriminating, or looking down upon, or trying to marginalize it, not accepting them. So I learned it from my own experience. And yes, we as a tribal, as an Adivasi myself, I have faced many kind of stereotypes, and have had many sort of assumptions about me. Maybe I don't know certain languages. Maybe I shouldn't be wearing these kind of clothes, because maybe I don't I'm not that economically sound to afford certain way of lifestyle, or wear certain garment, or to possess certain things. So there have been these stereotypes that I have experienced while I've been a student, and also like every day, like these kind of challenges keep coming on me. So yeah, I learn them, I understand them, and yes, I try to help my students coming from different religious backgrounds, or cultural backgrounds, to look into it and understand them.
Well, that's, I guess it would be good to have a teacher like you. I would have not bunked classes.
I don't know whether I'm that good. My students would be better to tell that. But that's that's how
No, I know you are a very
am
modest person,
with
so
my
it's
students.
okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's one thing that there's this constant like there are these sort of people who are who kind of love indigenous culture, who are non-indigenous, but in the sense that either white people or Brahmin people, upper caste people in Indian context, Hindu people in
Hmm.
Indian context,
Hmm.
who who sort of find the indigenous culture and people very beautiful, and so there's a lot
Yes.
of talk about the
You can,
beauty, and there are
yes,
photographers who are like thinking that, oh, these are such beautiful people. So it's just another version of exotic is what I think. Instead of saying that, oh, they're so exotic, they're saying they're so beautiful. It's never like a equal gaze.
yes, 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 yes. I agree that Surya, um, like when it comes to indigenous Adivasi people or tribal people, the first thing that hits everyone's head when it comes to Adivasi people are very good looking. So it would be some pictures of a very beautiful woman, with very soft features, very beautiful, colorful beads pleated into her hair, uh, coming from Africa. Okay, and these would be pictures which will say that black is beautiful. Black is also a color which it's beautiful, um, and yes, it's the the photographers or people in general also, when they are uh, when they are they're having a conversation, and they're in a group, and suddenly they talk about how uh, you know uh, well, they are not using this word definitely exotic, but how beautiful these Adivasi people are, and they have this beautiful skin, they have this beautiful color, they have this, and they have this beautiful culture, but it's just beautiful, it's just exotifying, it's something that's kind of sensual to their eyes, you know but not something that they would accept, not something that they would accept in their communities. They would always keep them as something. Oh, I'm a friend to a tribal person. I'm showing that I'm so open to all cultures. Or this friend of mine, he or she comes from this tribal background, and this person is dark, but looks very good, looks very beautiful. Or very recently, dark skinned, models, taking up, walking the ramps for very, big designers. And this is a kind of statement being, put across that, we are accepting, it's kind of an acceptance. This is also beautiful. This is also accepted. But where? To what extent are you accepting these people? It's just just for your gaze, just for the pleasure of your eyes, just for the whole sensual part of it. It's not accepting them as people of a certain community, uh, you know with this glorious past, and beautiful culture. They're not accepting in within their communities. They are not allowed in these spaces. They are just a visual pleasure. They are just maybe some beautiful pictures being shot of a tribal woman being put up, or being sold, auctioned for lot of money, and being put up in a you know some rich person's house, or being exhibited in a tribal museum, or colors of the world. So when it comes to colors of the world, you have different indigenous people of different colors, different colored skins, and wearing different colored clothes, something which would be very rare for the city dwellers to see in their everyday's life. So yeah, that's kind of an gaze, uh, just a pleasure to their eyes.
There's something that you mentioned, which is what I wanted to ask you about. Is what do you think about this whole thing of having museums? Because I always think that, like, even this Adivasi Mela that we have, that
Mhm.
why don't we have like a Mela for that sort of a museum, or Mela for other communities? Like, what about a museum of Brahmins? Like for the Brahmins, because
Is that even
that,
possible?
well, I hope so in the future. Like when India's indigenous people kind of take back what belongs to them, and they create museums where you can see the real primitive culture of the Brahmins. Which is. But
You
what do
know
you think?
why I think why exactly do we have these kind of fairs and museums and shows about tribal people is because uh, we are already marginalized. Look at the we look at this whole structure where we see people from the upper caste, just marginalized, just ignoring the presence of indigenous people coming from the other for them, other communities, or other religion, other caste, and all these. They're just being ignored. Now they are there in these spaces. You would find them in the cities. You will find them in your institutions. You will find them amongst your friends, but you have just just ignored. So where have you where has the whole idea gone to? Like, these tribal people come from this very beautiful place deep down in the forest or up in the hills. They are coming from them, some places which is not accessible by road. Okay, so these kind of tourisms which which promote the beautiful tribals of this particular state, enjoy the music and performance while while you're having your dinner, or a kind of performance, cultural performance being done to welcome the guest at a very at a five-star hotel, or at a boutique hotel, or some kind of a boutique palace hotel kind of. So it tribal culture has become an exhibit. Tribal people have become an exhibit. Why? Because uh, they have been continuously being pushed, pushed back somewhere, and that they belong to this particular place which is deep dark down inside the forest, and we are giving them space to come and perform. We are giving them the space, a white canvas where you can put their pictures, or a big screen where you could see them performing, or for that matter, exhibitions, or this Adivasi melas that are happening. You're giving them an opportunity to bring their indigenous products to be sold to the city dwellers. Okay, so these kind of sidelining for a long time, and not seeing them present amongst you is has, yes, this is kind of again the same kind of a gaze, something that's rare, something that's exotic, something that you sit back and enjoy the tribal music, or you go with your children, you go with your friends to visit an Adivasi Mela to see some kind of Adivasi food being cooked right in front of you live, and being given to you, so that you click a picture. We all do for our Instagrams and blog about it. The very such day I had this Adivasi food from this place, and then giving them a space in the glass cages. Their clothes, the statues are being made of the assumed skin color, and they're wrapped with the Adivasi clothes, and they are being put up in these boxes, glass boxes, to be seen by city people, to be seen by the very own people who are living in cities. Yeah, so I just actually missed your question or your point here while talking about it. Uh,
No,
well,
that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. I
so
mean,
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. This is how it is. Like these exhibitions, Adivasi, tribal museum, or tribal fairs, tribal food fest. There's lot of gruff festival, or tribal food festivals in different cities that's happening, and along with that, we have a lot of performances, tribal performances that is happening, and it's showcasing. them. What's indigenous, what's Adivasi. So it's, yes, definitely being exhibition. This kind of exhibition is being done, being brought in the name that there's uh, the Adivasis who have come or brought from different places, from interior places or such things like that, so that they are able to showcase, and also bringing these indigenous people together in this platform, so that they do not forget their older practices. So it's like uh, the people of power are giving them the opportunity to learn and continue to maintain their practices, which is already there. So yes, these kind of things we see in these kind of fest and fairs, exhibitions. So it's there. It's always there. And if you look into the articles, especially when you're looking into the articles that's coming in different newspapers, or e-newspapers or print newspapers, the kind of the titles that come, the uh, obscure, or from forest to city, from forest to Delhi. So the headlines that's being made is simply shows that you're giving them the opportunity to experience, or share their life, their lifestyle, or their knowledge. They have been given that space. So yeah, that's there, the whole idea.
So yeah, I mean, really, what you said is kind of you know that's really puts it in a nice, I mean, proper way. That on one side there is this otherization of the communities where they are kept as the odd. So this is a process of ensuring that you know that it's a kind of a process of ensuring that marginalization continues, and it's yeah, yeah. uh, One thing, like, while I can understand the political reasons, like when Marang Kumke, Dr. Jaipal Singh Munda started the Adivasi Mahasabha, and this he coined this Adivasi word, and he talked about the Adivasi identity. There was a reason for doing that, a political reason, which is to fight for the rights of the Adivasi people. But often, like across pan India, the various different communities, which are the scheduled tribes, are put into this homogenic identity of the Adivasi. And there, I think that's also a sort of you know, problematic thing to assume that a community in Kerala and a community in maybe Uttarakhand are the same, when they have distinctly different uh, cultural practices and cultural markers. Mm.
Hmm.
Is that a problem, or is that like how to look at it?
Well,
This sort
yes,
of
when
homogenization of the
yes,
Adivasi
yes, yes,
identity.
yes, yes, it's there. People don't understand when someone says Adivasi, they think that all Adivasis are the same. No, they are not. They are not. One has to understand that people coming from different regions in India have different cultures, like you said. Like they have different cultural marks, they have different cultural practices, and everyone is different. You cannot bring them in one single whole. So one Adivasi culture, northeastern would have a different practice, and one just one neighboring to them would have a completely a different one. So the one that's practiced by the Adivasis, the native people here in Odisha, would be completely different from the people, the Adivasis from Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh or from MP. So one has to understand that when someone says when this whole discussion or is being done that Adivasis of India, one has to understand that the Adivasis, all the Adivasis, settled in different regions are not same. And it's problematic because once tries to, one tends to uh, think that everyone is similar. There is no distinct identity about them. And especially and if we are not looking in terms, when there is this discussion of, political discussion of fighting for the rights of this Adivasi people, but look at this, everyday images that's there in visual form, um, in media, in cinema. When they talk about when they say Adivasi, all the Adivasis look alike. There's no difference. So when they say that Adivasi, they think that every Adivasi looks, or looks the same as the other Adivasi. So yeah, that's a problem. One needs to uh, know the differences among all the Adivasis that's there in India. Those are there in India, and every other Adivasi has different issues that they are fighting for. Okay, and so homogenizing everyone in one platform, that is not justified. One has to understand the difference of their cultural practices, difference in terms of their races, where do they come from. One state would have five different tribals, five different Adivasis living here, and they have different practices. You cannot for my tribals coming from Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Orissa, we have Ho, Santal, Mundak, Khariya, Dongriya, Kandhas, all these. We, not everyone is same. We have different cultural practices. We do not have similar markings. We do not have similar way of
Language.
wearing, draping, or languages for that matter. So every Adivasi is different. One has to understand, when we say Adivasi, not you cannot consider all Adivasis to fall under one umbrella, that Adivasis mean this only. So there are different cultural markers for different Adivasis those are there here in India.
Right. In fact, I mean, what I have seen, like, let's say, for an example, in Raigada district or Gajapati district, where the Kond community and the Sora community live next to each other, but one is, they have two completely different languages. The Sora speak Mundari language, the Kond speak Dravidian language, and but they have been neighbors for like thousands of years, and they cannot be said to be the same community, and so it is, I find it actually offensive if one is mistaken for the other, or that way. That is seems to be like some sort of willful kind of not acknowledging
Mm-hmm.
communities, and not acknowledging the community basically.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So if any of us have any more questions, then please, before we wrap up. It's been I'm sorry if you are tired.
It's fine.
Okay, I don't see much questions coming in. Is there anything else you would like to add, Deepika?
Well, we had a lot of things to talk where we discussed about a lot of things. I think there's not too much to add here, but yes, cultural appropriation. We see this in different forms, and um, we unconsciously sometimes try to appropriate ourselves. It's already done by non Adivasi people, but it's unconsciously, consciously done by ourselves also, and we have to try to you know uh, show ourselves, like claim our position that we are Adivasis, and we do not have to appropriate ourselves to be accepted, or you do not have to appropriate our lifestyles to be or our practices or our knowledges in it for the mainstream people or the people who are in the power position, so that you accept it. So yeah, that's what I would want to add, that appropriating is mm, you need you do not just have to appropriate, but yes, appreciate also this Adivasi cultures. There has to be some way to credit them and not to just marginalize them constantly. And then uh, appropriating, yeah, that has to some gradually or in some way being gradually being given away. Like they have to be accepted, the Adivasis, the way they are in their rural setup, their rustic way, that has to be accepted and not appropriated all the time. So the way they eat, the way they wear, the way they look, doesn't have to be always exotic or sexualized or something that is not for every person's taste bud. So one has to learn to accept uh, everything that's existing around them, and not just always appropriate it for their own liking, to be standardized always.
Right. Okay. So, okay, I just, just something else, because, while listening to you, I just remembered, I was remembering, a very brilliant scholar and activist, Abhay, you know him. And yeah, just his poem, I'm Not Your Data, was so powerful. And
Mm.
that really is, and one really misses him. During this discussion, I kind of remembered a few times. Huh. So, well, uh, so maybe we wrap up.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you so much, Deepika, for giving us time.
thank
I
you.
know you're having, you had a tiring week, but even then you gave us this time, and thank you so much for that. Hope we can have more discussions,
Yes,
and
sure, sure.
looking forward to learn more from you and also watch your new films.
Yes, let's see if there are any more in line. Yes, thank you, Surya, for having me for your show. And yes, I really feel that yes, I think I have matters to talk and discuss about, which most of the time I keep saying that no, I don't have things to discuss, or I don't have views for this or that. But yeah, thanks for bringing up this whole topic for discussion. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining in.
Okay. Thank you, and bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, friends.